Welcome back. This is now video 3. We're looking at things you might feel a little uncomfortable about, which is actually the risks. But this is actually how we apply the things I've talked about, writing stuff down, Spate versus Gaunt, CC3, the essential trustee, and CC27, decision-making. So I did say in video 1, there were 3 risks: regulatory, reputational, and professional. The regulatory one covers obviously the Charity Commission, but also others, HMRC because of gift aid, ICO, data, police if you've got safeguarding, and there will be others. The list depends on the nature of your charity, what you do, but I would suggest that the first 2 will almost always apply. Certainly the Commission does. On the reputational one, there's the reputational risk to yourself, but also to the charity. And here, media in all its forms, and in that I include social media, comes into play. Finally, professional. For those of us who are professionally qualified, there may be a risk of appearing before a disciplinary hearing of our professional body. That does look scary, but it is manageable. It is manageable through having a clear process for decision-making. So applying those 6 principles of within CC3 and also of following the guidance in CC27 decision-making. But actually where it starts is with risk management. Through having a clear process of identifying the risks as best you can. And very often what happens is you find that the risk that really does give you a problem is the one you've not actually identified. But even so, if you've got a process in place, and then how you assess and mitigate those risks. Remember, there's always a risk in doing nothing, going for the status quo. So first start with your risk management. Then having had that, put in place, well, I'm going to call a template, but you could call it a checklist, but something that is a logical list you work through. And here's my suggestions as a starting point. But you should always remember when you're looking at the things I'm talking about and the suggestions I'm making and the guidance from the Commission, that you apply the test of, is it appropriate to your charity? Is it proportionate? And take into account what you've found out through your risk management process. So back to my notes, I'm afraid. Does it comply with charity law? What you're proposing to do, does it comply with charity law, especially public benefit? Sound familiar? It's number 1 on the Commission's list of things you must do in CC3. Does it comply with our governing document? That's number 2, by the way. Are we complying? Oh, hold on. Sorry about that. With our own procedures and standing orders. You may have delegated authority for the chair to do something, or maybe you do actually have staff. Is it something that needs to be done by the whole of the trustee body? The next 2 are really critical because certainly the first one is about 1/3 of the Commission's investigation work. And that is, are there any conflicts of interest or conflicts of loyalty? The next one, which is number 5, is, are there any related party transactions? Is there somebody who is connected to a trustee who is going to financially benefit from this? Can we afford it, managing our resources? Does it meet our criteria, which is about our powers? And also the criteria we've set up. If you're a grant-making charity, my own, we say we're biased towards smaller charities and we're less inclined to do nationals. Have we carried out any due diligence that is appropriate and proportionate? Key here, and I spoke about this earlier on, do we need to take professional advice? It needs to be timely and it needs to be appropriate. And I added this one onto the list late, but I think in this day and age, we also always need to ask ourselves, Are there any safeguarding issues? Even if we're not involved, is the organization we're making a grant to or we're becoming engaged with, is it managing safeguarding properly? Now, that can sound like a very daunting list, that list of 10. But in reality, we're probably already doing this all of the time, almost without thinking about it. And that comes back to video 1. Are we documenting it? And that's perhaps where we're in danger of falling down. But having run through your checklist and been happy, have you applied my air test? Not sure about that. And have we tried to write a Daily Mail headline? If you do all of that lot, you're pretty safe. Now, I've given you a list of 10, but please don't just accept my list. Write your own, because your charity is unique. Yes, there's crossover, there is similarity, but it has to be fit for your charity. Some of what I've suggested may not be appropriate, it may be over the top, but more importantly, I may have missed stuff. So make it personal. And that's it for this video. What we're going to look at next is what I always like to do. It's a bit sad, really, but it is to disaster plan. What happens if the worst happens? How will we manage it? If you do this now, if the worst happens, you will be in a far better place and life will be a lot easier. But I also have the superstition that actually if you plan for it, it won't happen. And I do hope that is the case for you. So I look forward to seeing you in video 4. And I'm hoping that you're finding these useful. Thank you very much.